Welcome back to Nature's Corner. My name is Erin. I'm a naturalist with Ohio Department of Natural Resources. On today's show, we're going to be talking about camping and campers. Actually, the next few shows, we're going to take a look. As a park naturalist, my job is doing programs for the public, particularly in our campground. And to be quite honest, I never really understood why someone would leave their house and stay in a campground. But I really get it now because I borrowed my mom's camper and I had an aha moment, and it really clicked. And this was just in the recent past. So I myself am looking to purchase a camper. I would like to become more familiar with the nuts and bolts and how to pick out the right campsite and why people would even do this in the first place. So I've really learned a lot in the last few months. And today we're here at Holman Camper,
Yep,
Holman Motor, and we are with Eddie Holmberg.
Yes.
So thank you for having me today and for answering some of our questions. How long have you been here?
I've been here 20 years. Every day is a new adventure. And yeah, there's a big variety of different customers that come in looking for campers with all kinds of lifestyles.
Okay. So I guess let's start off with why would people buy a camper? Why would people leave their house and stay in a camper?
Again, many different customers, they're going to come in, either they live in the city and they want to vacation more, get their kids more involved in the outdoors, and several different places to do that in Ohio alone. And I guess it could stem from, well, when we retire, we want to travel. And a lot of younger families are now starting to do that with their families, either in restriction to COVID, they can still socially distance, and it's a rolling quarantine unit, if you will. And it just opens up a lot of opportunities. It could be sports related, if you're traveling with softball, select sports, and you're going out of different cities and whatnot. So there's KOAs and everything in other state parks that you can just go and day trip and go enjoy those activities. So all kinds of different walks of life.
Yeah, so for me personally, I've needed a change of scene. Maybe I just needed a place to get out and think for a minute.
Right.
And so I borrowed my mom's camper and I went maybe 10 miles away. I went to the Lebanon KOA.
Right.
And I had an amazing experience staying in this. It was like my own space, and
Right.
I could have room to think, and nature was all around, and it was just fantastic.
There's, I've also noticed there's been a lot of people that they travel out of state and they found out a lot of things to do in that area, but the 10 mile to 15 mile radius around their home, they've not explored yet. And this is a good opportunity for them to get out and find out, well, let's see about vacationing here around our home. What would people coming out of state into our area, what would they enjoy? And you get to enjoy some of those things without all the travel time and expense involved with that.
And I live so close to the park, and I take it for granted because I'm there every day.
Right.
But staying in a camper, I don't know, it just gave me a whole new perspective, and to be able to do it myself, it gave me a sense of like independence, like, yes, I can do this.
Sure. There's a lot of times where you might just want that extra weekend, or hey, I found out last minute I've got a couple days off work this coming weekend. I might try to avoid the holiday weekends. That seems to be very busy. But yeah, it could be a random midweek, just retreat, get away. And it's ready to go anytime you are. So.
And especially since COVID, I think this market has exploded because
It's been very busy. Yes, so we're starting to get restocked and have a huge selection right now. So with a lot of the products being built in the US, we're not waiting on foreign markets or in a shipment of something that's still stuck at port or anything. So the RV Mecca kind of became the North Central Indiana. So they're not having to outsource a lot of those. They're basically being mass produced there. So it's grown exponentially, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for having me here today. We are here in the dealership are we in the warehouse? I don't know. I hear some noise going on.
Kind of a bigger storage area. Because of the weather, we wanted to get in and out of the weather, which is exactly a camper's function. So sometimes people get tied up too much about how much space is on the inside of the camper when the whole point is to get out and explore. So unemotionally, looking at two main factors you look at is sleeping in shelter. But again, why people buying campers? It could be a long love lost or something else that you didn't even know to explore, but it's kind of hard to predict the future. So yeah, if somebody comes in, one of the first couple of questions I'll ask them, how many people on a regular basis do you plan to take with you? So this random travel trailer here is mostly towable by 80% of SUVs out in the market right now. And there are some safe ways to double check what your tow vehicle is rated to tow. You might not even have an interest in a travel trailer. You might want something that you can just start up the engine and start driving. We call those motorhomes. So you've got different classes of motorhomes. Visiting a place like Holman Motors, we have a big selection of just, well, I'm not sure what I want. Get out there on a nice day, take your grain gear, your whatever gear. Most RV places have close to 100 acres, and you're going to be trekking outside, so expect to be outdoors. And that might be a great learning experience. Hey, I like some of the features about this, or I like some of the features about that. Do they even offer something that ties those two features together? But again, stemming back to what am I safely rated to tow? How many sleeping capacity is it rated for? A beautiful camper with gold cabinets doesn't mean anything if I can't sleep my children or my pets or something else. So again, most hotels won't let you bring your pets. Campers is another solution for you to bring your fur babies and whatnot. So very versatile.
And it can be a bit overwhelming when you first start, because as I was just beginning, I'm like, there's class A and B and C, and there's a travel trailer, and there's a this and that. And so how do you even get started? Where do you start?
Finding accurate information is probably the biggest thing. Not knowing something published on a website or the World Wide Web, there's no checks and balances that you have to put information out there. It could be inaccurate information. So finding accurate information can be hard and trustworthy. You want to double check with somebody that either supports that. It could through a manufacturer. It can be through a friend that might already be camping, what they recommend or what they don't recommend. Again, all recommendations, but trusting somebody in the RV industry, they can confirm towing capacities. They can also look at some of those. Reputations has a lot to do with it. So we're standing next to a Forest River product, and just like their competition, Keystone or other Thor products, Heartland, they have everything from their Ferrari to their Pinto. So you've got a few different models that you can compare, and the RV industry builds out of all of those campers, and we're talking hundreds to thousands of brands of campers. It can seem very overwhelming. Well, which one's a good brand? Well, even within that brand, what trim level up or down are you looking for? Do you like to drive a Corvette, or do you like to drive a Jeep? Very different, and also difference in quality of different manufacturers too. So it could be, you could feel overwhelmed. Don't feel that you're naive or ignorant about something. There's never a dumb question. Always ask questions. The more information you can gather before making that ultimate decision will make you most satisfied with what you chose to buy that's best for your family and or in your budget.
So now that we kind of know what the options are,
yeah.
And say for me, I drive a Jeep, which limits a bit because of the towing capacity.
Sure.
So where would you go from there?
So there's going to be equipment necessary to tow a camper. So trailer brakes are going to be installed from the manufacturers on every travel trailer. If it has a capacity of 3,500 pounds or more, it has to, by law, have trailer brakes to engage and slow down the trailer. So the tow vehicle needs to have what's called a brake control installed in it, if it doesn't have one already. And those prices can range a couple $100 to $600, depending on how intricate or how many computers might be telling that car, whether it's a Land Rover, a specialty vehicle or something. The electric vehicle market's starting to grow, so we're also getting new questions about those. But specifically back to your Jeep, you most likely don't have a factory installed brake control. And in regards to the towing capacity, we'll probably refer back to Chrysler's website and double check the actual tow rating. So referring back to a trusted site for accurate information. We do sell some cars, used cars, new vehicles as well here, but I'm not an expert on a Chrysler product. So we'd want to double check and make sure we're not sharing wrong information with you. Ultimately, you're coming to us for trust and professionalism, so I need to be accurate. So we'd actually go back to Chrysler's website just for a safety factor. As a rule of thumb, it might be close to 3,500 pounds. Some of them could be rated as high as 5,000 pounds. But if anything, we'd want to shy on the side of conservative. So if we're rated 3,500 pounds, a rule of thumb we'd also use is we want to be safely towing something that might weigh 2,500 pounds. So that way, after we add belongings and gear to the camper and or passengers to the tow vehicle, we're not going to exceed that 3,500 pounds. Believe it or not, this one is actually a little bit over that for weight purposes. And usually the manufacturers, for safety reasons, they're going to list not only its capacity, but its empty or unloaded vehicle weight right inside of the door jambs. Not always the case. Sometimes they make you go looking for it. And again, a sales professional can help you run that information down. This one is stating it weighs 3,938 pounds. So it's on a weight sticker inside of the door jamb. I would recommend a vehicle to tow at least a 5,000 pound tow rating. That way we're not exceeding the towing vehicle with passengers and also some equipment inside. But sleeping capacity, towing capacity, those are probably the first two questions I can help you asking, is it even going to be a functional layout for you?
Yep. Okay, so to recap,
yep.
If we're going to delve into the world of campers, first we want to figure out why,
right?
Like what are the benefits of camping in a camper, which I recently have discovered this big aha moment of why it's amazing. Yep. And then so why and kind of where you're going to go. I will personally probably stay more local with a few more long distance trips.
Sure.
And then you want to figure out who's going to be staying in it.
Right.
One or two people or your whole family and your pets. And then 3, you want to be sure that you're matching your towing vehicle with your camper or your RV.
Correct. Looking at a new expense for, let's say, a toy, like a camper, you don't want to have to put yourself, or you don't want to put yourself in a position where now I've got to go out and spend double what the camper costs just to get a proper or safe tow vehicle. Some people, budget-wise, they only have the expense or idea in mind that, hey, we're going to use what we have and not anticipate another new car loan. So sticking to your own budget is probably one of the biggest things that you want to just keep bringing yourself back to and say, okay, does this still fit in my budget? That way you're actually enjoying it and not fearing it. So,
what are the pros and cons of buying a brand new one or to buying a used one?
There are a few either way. So with a brand new camper, you're typically going to have your factory warranties. So that's going to be a nationwide, not just the dealership you bought it from. Forest River dealers in this case are set up all across the lower 48. There are even Canadian contacts, so if you do plan to start traveling, you might initially start out and saying, hey, I want to stay local. Lifestyles change. So in 2 years, it's hard to predict the future. In 2 years, you might say, hey, I'm taking a job opportunity to now go to Colorado. Luckily, Forest River is now going to also have dealers set up in that service area as well. So most of the time around major cities, you shouldn't find a problem, but yeah, lower population areas like Montana, it might be a little farther away than just in Cincinnati, Ohio area, just to get some servicing done. But yeah, it's in regards to taking yourself locally or long distance, factory warranties continue with you wherever you might go. Used campers, traditionally, unlike the car business, your 3 or 36,000 mile, general warranty on a new vehicle, that doesn't transfer like it would in the car business on the camper side to a bunch of used owners. So usually the first owner is the only one that gets the factory warranties on a new camper purchase, whereas used, you're basically buying it as is. But a lot of that has to do with where you might be making the purchase at, comparing to a place that doesn't properly prep a camper. You may not know that the water heater is not working until you try to go out and start using it the very first time. So they're kind of, it's a house on wheels essentially. So pushing every button during a walkthrough orientation or something, picking the right floor plan first and foremost, but getting back to, yes, why new over used, you're looking at sometimes a cost difference. If the money savings justifies me taking on the responsibility of something not working, I might still come out thousands ahead, still buying a gently used one, 1 to 2 years old, and still say, well, no, it was well taken care of.
Very good. Makes a lot of sense. So while we're here, will you give me a quick kind of overview of the features of this one? And
sure. And in regards to one style over another, a lot of the features on this smaller trailer are going to be available on a much larger, let's say, fifth wheel. Added expenses aren't always because it has less features, it just might have more brand name versions. This one already has an awning on it, so what can come out and give us more sunshade or lighted shade at night. Outside speakers, television hookups, again, just naming off the top of my head, you can spend in your budget, staying to your budget a little bit more comfortably. And again, that might say, okay, well, I might not get my mini fridge outside as well. But surprisingly, the more you spend in the RV industry doesn't mean you'll have less problems. So higher quality, more expense it's not always relative in the RV industry. So could be just some extra features. The travel trailers typically are going to attach to the back of a hitch of the vehicle. So it could be an SUV, it could be a truck, it could be, in some cases, small enough, a car. So they're going to attach to a ball or a hitch apparatus, and you'll hear the terminology used, weight distribution system. Kind of like a 200-pound rock. If you tried to pick that up and carry it, you might take 2 steps in your backyard before you just drop it and it lands on your foot. A disaster. If you put it in the wheelbarrow and you pick up the wheelbarrow, you might be able to push it at least 50 feet before you start feeling burdened. Same idea applies with the weight distribution system. It's alleviating a lot of that tongue weight just on the back end of the car and the tow vehicle. But the propane tanks, batteries up here, storage is going to be one of the most important things that you can take with you. If you don't have room to take it, you're not going to have it when you get there. So under the bed storage in this case, additional storage outside and also inside, but mainly your outside stuff. Where do you put your folding chairs? Are you just going to get there and sit on the ground? We have to have places to put those things. So some of the better floor plans have more creative storage areas or more of them. These are some fancy steps, but they're a more solid step. The steps themselves hinge in the entry door, so while you're in transit, they don't hang down or create any clearance issues for towing purposes. But they're very solid. If there's a heavier friend that shows up unexpectedly, nobody's worried about them stepping. They have a nice secure and also handhold to get in and out of the camper. Some of the features with outside kitchen related ideas, you're going to spend a lot of time, especially in the summertime. We may not be thinking about it right now, but try to cook outside more, because I'm trying to cool the inside of the camper with the air conditioning. If I'm cooking everything inside, I'm creating a lot of heat in there. So we try to cook anything we can outside, but also while we're spending most of that time outside, it might be adult juices or kids juices, instead of tracking potentially mud or bad, weather. You're in the elements outside. So that's one less step that everybody has to go inside just to grab another Mountain Dew or something. The tires and some of the technology that you notice in some of the newer vehicles, like a tire pressure monitor system, the RV industry is going to try to dummy some of that stuff down got a lot of people that might only have a high school education, and what we feel is common sense knowledge. Someone might be very book smart, and it might overwhelm them to think, oh wow, I don't really know what I'm doing with this stuff. It's just not my forte. There's nothing wrong with that. So we kind of learn as we go. But even in the car technology, they have tire pressure monitor systems. Believe it or not, the cap that's on this tire is actually showing us a green color right now. It's pressure oriented, so it actually depresses part of that valve stem. And if it's lower than that pressure indicator, it'll actually show up as a red indicator. So you can walk by. Proper tire pressure has a lot to do with safety, proper tread, and or just walking by, being able to look at it and confirm. We've got some other things on this sidewall. As far as outside speakers, they actually have a TV bracket with a cable hookup and additional 110 outlet plugs. So whether I'm cooking on an electric griddle or something else with a direct heat source, there's the exhaust vent for the stovetop or range. Furnace exhaust and intake. So this is an area that can get hot. So even finding out, oh wow, on a cold day and I'm running the furnace inside, I can actually come over and warm my hands right up on it with the intent. That's just lost heat, because its whole main purpose is just to heat the inside of the camper. But yeah, even some more of the features outside. Stabilizer jacks are going to keep this as foundationally strong, just like walking through your house at home. So again, getting a walkthrough orientation with, once you make the purchase at the dealership or service center, they're going to walk you through the camper and explain some of the rudimentary things, give you some extra advice from use and experience. They'll say chalking the wheels is a very essential, important thing. As soon as you go to take it off of your tow vehicle, you may notice that it wants to roll forward or backward because not much is stopping or slowing it down. That could be a real problem. You can't really stop a 5,000 or 4,000 pound camper by hand. There's getting back to some of the pet-friendly either campsites, campgrounds, or personal property that you're going to, there are lease latches. They're part of the family. They want to be outside with you as well, but obviously there's a lot of still leash laws and stuff in place. So there's even one built into this camper.
You know, that's really, really nice. It seems like a small thing,
yeah.
But coming from the campground point of view, because we have put a lot of time and a lot of money into planting trees, because recently, you know, we've lost a lot of our ash trees.
Yep.
And so we've planted all these new little trees, and then people tie their dogs onto our new little tree saplings, and we're like, oh no, but
right.
So that's nice.
Yes.
Okay, let's keep going here.
And outside storage, again, you can never have enough storage, because simply if you can't pack it, it's not going to be there when you get there. So without overburdening the tow vehicle and having everything in there, the stuff you're going to regularly use and used again the next time you go camping, why can't we just leave it in the camper? So this is actually a designed opening large enough for a mountain bike to fit in. The lower bunk hinges up, if we can see that.
Nice.
So the lower bunk hinges up and latches into place to where you can use this all as additional bike storage or other larger items that may not fit in just a smaller outside compartment.
And you can access that from inside?
You can. Once you put the bed up, it kind of blocks you from that area.
Okay.
So it's simply something while in transit you're not going to generally use. Once you get there, those items do come out, and it becomes a very functional additional space, secondary function. So not that these guys are transformers, but they definitely do a lot of neat things with a small area and small space.
Yeah.
Leading into some of the inside features, you can also accommodate sometimes the bed or the dinette drops or makes into another bed, not just an eating area where it's just a table itself.
Okay.
So additional storage underneath of those booth dinette seats, pots and pan storage, perfect for it. And those are some of the things, if you did want to go inside and see, we can show some of those features as well.
Thank you for showing us the outside. We have moved inside the travel trailer now.
Sure.
If you'll give me a general overview of what we're seeing in here.
Yes, you definitely have a smaller space providing you anything on that rainy day that you might need, as far as a movie night with the family stuck inside, or just simply you're ready to come in and go to bed. Having the extra sleeping, whether it's the master bedroom, additional bunks for the let's say children up to 12 years old comfortably. Some of the bunks vary in size, not assuming that every bunk width is the same from one manufacturer to the next, or even floor plan to the next. Some of them offer a larger double bunk. We'd mentioned outside the dinette, it actually drops to another bed. So this could be a great feature if you do have a surprisingly adult couple randomly meets up with you because they heard you were camping and said, hey, we're in the area, we're going to pop by. They stay a little bit late. Great, we have another bed that's functioning as a dinette. Some of the additional storage compartments can be very large.
Wow.
Hidden out of place, and again, a great pots and pans location because kitchen counter space is at a minimum sometimes because when you're not using it as either food prep or also washing,
That's a big sink.
you don't always get that luxury of, well, what's underneath? It might be sometimes blocked off either with furnace or water heater and some of those features. So assuming the door is that big, you would think that the storage is that big as well. It's actually not. Cooking, you'll have heat, and your cooking sources are going to be propane in campers. So they'll try to limit how much amperage or wattage you're using so that it all stays on a functional 30 amp or a 50 amp circuit. So microwaves, it's not that we've ever heard of Contour brand, but they'll use specific brands and distributors that have a lower amperage, kind of like a hair dryer. It'll use a lot of amperage real quick, but you only use it to heat up a burger for a couple minutes or something, and then you're done. But yeah, even talking about the refrigerator behind us, this one has a dedicated freezer and refrigerator separate. Some of those are lacking in some of the smaller trailers. This is a larger and also 12 volt only refrigerator. So this will work while you're in transit as well as at a campground and you potentially lose power. Most campers, to be called a camper, you're going to have a restroom facility, so somewhere to actually, the waste has to go somewhere as well. So there's a shower tucked into the right of this commode, and just like anything, we have larger and smaller people, larger and smaller bathrooms. So sometimes getting in, checking to make sure you can shut the door is something that you can make sure in one floor plan to the next. Air conditioning is going to always fall from the ceiling, so your cool air is going to actually fall. So they'll introduce that to the ceiling of the camper and your heat rises. So they generally, like this one, having the furnace closer to the floor, it'll radiate the heat and obviously rise. AM, FM radios, some of them have CD and DVD players. Television hookups are going to be standard as well, but this one's even a Bluetooth feature. So you can be outside with the outside speakers and the interior speakers turned off because you might have someone napping inside, but you still want to hear a little bit of the tunes. You can remote operate that through your mobile device paired through Bluetooth. So a lot of those features, they're going to have either the push buttons or even the monitor panels telling you how full and empty those tanks are, because at some campgrounds you might be limited on how much water you brought with you or how much water is going down the drains and filling up what tanks you have on the camper. But yeah, a lot of creature comforts from home you can expect to have on campers now. There are just as many television hookups, if not more, than you might expect in a smaller trailer, and inside and outside applications as well.
Yeah, so our next show, I would like to ask you more questions about the water hookups and how to do this and how to do that.
Sure.
But as we're wrapping up today's show, I can't help but notice this bed is huge. What?
Yep. So the camper industry for the RV queen size bed or mattress, it's a 60 by 74, and it definitely will accommodate a normal size adult. Don't get me wrong, my brother-in-law that's 6'6", doesn't always fit in every style size bed. So yeah, so it's definitely accommodating a more normal size human. But for bigger or smaller people, there's benefits or disadvantages one way or the other, yeah.
I see people that come into the campground, but they're in their space and then they
Sure.
go home. How do I really get the inside perspective,
So
before
just-
I buy one?
Right, and so just like in life, we have our circle of either friends or trusted loved ones. you can branch out a little bit more. Blogs can be a very helpful source of, hey, what do I do when I'm looking at just a first-time camper buyer? What are the features or things I might look for that's benefited somebody else in the past? There isn't a perfect camper out there, but there are some things that you probably don't want to cut a corner on to make sure, as far as function or safety and function for the family really is the biggest thing. What two things they wish they would have known before making their purchase and they regretted or something, and they ended up buying another one 2 years down the road. But yeah, some online sources, some friends, and even the campgrounds. You might even talk to a random stranger. If you're an introvert or an extrovert, it might be very comfortable or very awkward for you to just reach out. In a lot of campgrounds, there are a lot of people more than willing to help out as a mutual camper. In the same loop, or as you're walking by, you might even notice, wow, that's a neat idea. Why, I didn't know that was even available. You might find out that they now own the company, that they patented a certain design or style. And that happens a lot, just innovation in any aspect of life.
So are there particular sites that you would suggest, I guess, like trusted sites, blogs, Facebook pages?
There can be, and again, a lot of the times when you're referring to a product, whether it's a brand name of campers, some of them will push their product, so they may not share something they might be lacking. Other trusted sites, there's one that comes to mind. It's called outbackers.com, and it's for Keystone Outback brand blog forum, so they can actually discuss what was good or bad about a certain thing and what floor plan they love the best for their family of 4 or whatnot, and you might really relate to them. And that one is regulated by Keystone, just so that people are sharing accurate information about it. But there are a lot more out there. That was just one of them I know people have come and told me about that was helpful to them. They now own Outbacks and are also part of the people posting on there.
Yeah, okay, I understand. And the website, I was checking out the Holman RV website, and it's amazing how big this is and how much information you can gain. So
Sure.
It just takes a while. It takes time.
It can, and multiple trips too. So if you're planning to show up on a random day and you were on your way back from filing your taxes and you just said, oh wow, there's a camper place, let's stop by. You're not going to be able to pick out the camper that's best for your family in 20 minutes. It's just not really. You can go and just kill some time, yes. But if you plan to really shop, dress for the weather. Most of the properties are very large. You'll probably be outside shopping in and out of a few different brands. And that's a great time for you to dedicate a couple hours or multiple visits. And it might take the second or third trip out for you to actually walk back through one you've already walked through, and you're like, wow, this really makes sense after seeing so many others. Coming back to it, seeing it a second time sometimes does help.
So I guess my last question is, when would be the best time and where would be the best time to look and explore?
So the RV industry sets up typically in the off season. So wintertime, they'll introduce RV shows in multiple different cities across the country. Sometimes it's promoted that those are the best prices across the country, or best time to buy. That can be misleading. Sometimes if you're north of Tennessee, we have weather. So as an Ohio dealership, we try to put our best foot forward. We may only get one opportunity to earn your business, so we're what we're known as a wholesale dealership. You don't have to haggle back and forth. The internet has made a very cool shopping tool for you. Usually you'll get an upfront price that might be aggressive or might not be, and they try to upsell one thing or another. But best times of the year to buy with a wholesale dealership might be year-round when you're ready to buy. Sometimes the RV shows are a great area to go and look at multiple different dealerships and what they may offer, compare them to each other, and also the different brands of campers that they carry. Summertime, if you're looking in the summertime, we usually have daylight till, let's say, 9 p.m.-ish. If you're looking more towards wintertime, even if the dealership or service center or something is open until 8, 9 p.m., it might be dark at 5 o'clock. Don't show up at 4:30 and be disappointing yourself. It's surprising how many people or folks do that from time to time. And it's just, oh, well, we weren't really thinking we were going to look at campers today. Okay, well, it might be less interesting for the salesperson to say, well, I'm not going to get involved that day. If you rolled out of the wrong side of the bed, salespeople are no different. I always tell customers, take this process as fast or as slow as you'd like. If you're wanting to go camping and be out there in the wilderness in 2 weeks, we probably need to pick something out today. Are you ready? And just kind of start and go from there.
Very good. So this is going to be a journey for me. There is so much to learn, and I feel I have just begun. So our next show, I would like to talk about more of the nuts and bolts, and like I said, how to fill it up with water, how to empty the tanks, and because if I purchase one, I want to be able to do it. And so thank you so much for having us. I've learned a lot today, and I'm looking forward to learning more soon.
Yes, and it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's it for today's show. Thank you for watching. If you'd like more information, you can check us out online at ohiostateparks.gov, or you can check out Holman RV, and we'll see you on the trails.